Well, today is travel day. As you probably guessed by the plug that I'm packing, I'm going to the United States. But first, I think that's the problem. I can't think in the morning. So that's all I need for 6 weeks in California. I always love and hate travel day because it means that I'm going someplace and that I'm leaving someplace. So depending on where I'm going or coming to, I either love or hate it. Actually, what I hate the most is the airport shuffle. That always seems to take longer than the actual airplane ride itself. I mean, I get it. We have to be security conscious, so we have to give everyone at the airport a break that works there because they're dealing with hundreds, if not thousands of people every single day coming from all the different countries of the world, speaking, you know, at least 3 or 4 different languages, well, probably 30 or 40 different languages, and they have to deal with the lost kids wandering about on a luggage conveyor belt, and you know, there's always all those people that, sorry, I have to put away some dishes here. There's all those people that, you know, forget that they have their oil olay, you know, this big, inside of their carry-on and their waters and what have you. So it's always a big mess. You know? All of you that travel somewhat know that it's just something that you have to get through to get to your next destination. If you're like me, you'll eventually be able to have all these magnets from all the places that you've visited. Travel day is always a good day for me to remember to do one thing that I don't usually do during all the time that I spend here in Italy. Clip my toenails. Okay, I know, that's sort of gross, but if you think about it, nowhere else, excuse me, taking off my sock here. Phew! Nowhere else do I have a patio where I can just clip my toenails and let my little toenail clippings fall over to the porch below me. The lady that lives below me just loves it when I clean my floors here and sweep all the stuff that's on the floors out the window. I know it's kind of rude, but I'm getting older, and actually bending down to pick up the dust that you've swept up is not something that I can do as easily as I used to do. Sorry, I'm paying attention to clipping these toenails. Whoa, that one went far. Wow, that's kind of cool. I've never really let them get this long before. I think my last trip, where did I go? I went to London. I think my last trip, I think I forgot to do this, so they're a little bit longer than usual. Anyway, today I travel to California. I'm flying into San Francisco, and my sister Roxanne is going to be picking me up at the airport. I don't have a whole bunch of plans during my time in California. I have some things that I want to do. I'm planning on renting a car and going down the coast and enjoying some, hopefully, California sunshine, because the last couple of weeks here in Italy, the weather has been not miserable, but just cloudy and a lot of rain and that sort of stuff. So I'm looking forward to some beach time and some of that famous, this one hurts, hold on. Here, do you want to see? Hold on, I'll show you. Okay, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to show you. I'm looking for forward. Ouch. This one's like an ingrown nail. I once had a doctor look at this and I asked him, well, what can we do? And he just kind of looked at it and shook his head and said, well, some things you can do something about and some things you can't. And not only was he looking at my toenail, I think he was looking at my face too. Why is it when you clip your toenails, oh, the camera's starting to fall a little bit. Let's follow it. It's still falling. I think it's finally starting to grab on. Okay, I gotta get recentered here. Why is it that when you clip your toenails, oh, the camera's still going. Hold on. Hold on, don't go anywhere. Hold on, we're still falling a little bit. This is pretty cool. Anyway, why is it that when you clip your toenails, you feel like 10 pounds lighter? Oh, the camera's still going. Hold on. We're out. Over and out. Over and out. Out. If you recall, in my last video, I had to go to the dentist, and he told me it was a pretty good idea to start brushing my teeth. And so I've joined the toothbrush club of the month, and every month a new used toothbrush from a garbage container arrives at my house, and I disinfect it with perfume, and then it's like new. And I just go at it. He said that I gotta spit, but I'm not gonna show you that. Okay. He said that what I should really do is make sure I brush for a long enough time, and one thing that you can do, you can teach your kids, is to sing the ABCs when they're brushing their teeth 14 times in a row. And when they're done, you can have them clean the bathroom with the toothbrush, and then when they're done with that, they're done. So if you don't know your ABCs, I thought that I would recite my ABCs once, so you can, is that toothpaste on my nose? No, it's just my nose highlighted by this bright light. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, U, R, S, T, W, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. It's time for me to go take a shower. Wow, this is a long towel. Ouch. Ouch. Hot water. So, I hate my shower here in Italy. It's really small, and the bathtub is really old, and usually I have no shampoo left. I'm singing in the rain, wondering why I'm not going to Spain. Tastes like chicken. I've had this, I think, for 7 years now, and it used to be white, but I think it's supposed to turn green, right? I'm not sure. Usually when I'm leaving, I'm gonna sneeze. Hold on. Gesundheit. Usually when I'm leaving Venice to go someplace else on an airplane, it's usually the first flight in the morning, like 6 a.m. And of course, I live like an hour away distance from the airports. But today, this time, I'm sort of ahead of the game. I actually packed most of my things last night. I've slept the floor. I've swept the floor. I've taken a shower. Well, you saw that. One thing that I like to do when I travel is sort of have a little book moment. But these are some of my most recent reads. One of my favorite authors, Ann Tyler. She's an amazing author. I love all of her books. The book was called A Spool of Blue Thread. And it's just, you know, she's in her 70s now, or just turned 70, and I've been reading her since 20 years or so, when Dinner at the Homesick Restaurant came out. Who can forget The Accidental Tourist? Well, I can't, because that actually was a book that sort of formulated some of the reason why I wanted to travel later in life. She's just an absolute master of bringing together just the normal everyday lives of people and making it very interesting, and doing it with a clear, lucid, mesmerizing voice that gives each one of her characters a specific identity. Another good book that I read, a book called Good Prose, a nonfiction book. Tracy Kidder, he's a Pulitzer Prize winner, and he wrote that book. Oh, I never read it, but it was very popular. The Soul of a New Machine, he wrote. This one is Stories and Advice from a Lifetime of Writing and Editing. Haruki Murakami is a really famous author from Tokyo. One of his most famous books was called Norwegian Wood. This one was a memoir, and since I was in the midst of rewriting my book Lost in Language, I thought that this might be kind of interesting. What it's called is What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. And Haruki is a long-distance runner. He does it for his health, and it's also his way to sort of meditate and to grow his literary life, so to speak. And I really relate to that, because I know that writers especially have these sorts of rituals that we go through to get motivated to write our work. So maybe when I go to the used bookstore in California, I think it's time for me to pick up another Haruki novel or a book. This book won the Pulitzer Prize, and this was a couple of years ago that it won, and it's a very controversial book. It's called The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, and it's one of those short books. I don't know what to say about this book. I have to say that the main story of the book is just about this painting that goes lost and then is eventually found, or is it? Spoiler alert. But anyway, it's just a big giant tapestry of weird lives put all together, and I don't know, I have to say that she is a master of prose, and I was engrossed in this novel and wanted to finish it. A book that I'm currently reading, which I'm not going to be bringing with me because I don't have much more to go, is Billy Collins' new book of poetry called The Rain in Portugal. As you know, I write poetry, and I never really think of it as poetry. Every time I say I'm a poet, I'm a little bit uncomfortable because I don't really think that I'm a poet. I write these little tidbits of stories, sometimes fictional, sometimes related to my experiences, and it comes out in sort of a crazy kind of verse. I don't know if that's poetry or what it is, but Billy Collins is certainly an accessible poet. He's very funny. And some of his books that I've read in the past, I can recommend Horoscopes for the Dead. That was an excellent book of poetry. Ballistics was another really great book. The Trouble with Poetry and Other Poems. Picnic Lightning, Thunder, Lightning. Have a picnic and you get struck by lightning if it's thundering. Those were just, some of the poems in those books were just amazing. He's been a poet laureate of the United States, and I know that The Rain in Portugal is a little bit of a letdown, if I have to be very honest with you. It still has some amazing poems, but they don't stick with me. Like if I went back through some of his other books, that I've kept all of them, and thumbed through some of the pages, some of those poems would have a brand new life for me. Here, I I don't feel the same. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, it may be because I just feel differently about interacting with poetry. It could just be me, and he's writing at the top of his form, but for some reason, maybe because I'm in a different place in my life, it doesn't resonate as much as it used to. And I think that's true of any writing or even music. I've gone through a lot of that with musical choices lately. Some things just don't resonate the way that they used to, and I think it's because we as human beings are constantly changing and evolving. Some of the things that were so important to us in the past are not as important to us in the future. That's why I rewrote Lost in Language, because I wanted to make it more fresh and more how I was in the moment now than when I wrote it, if that makes any sense. It hasn't changed that much. I just finished 2 books. George Saunders' Lincoln in the Bardo. And this book is pretty brand new, and it's going to be very controversial because it's written in a style that has pretty much never been done before. It's sort of like the Muses in a Shakespeare play, that a chorus of muses, or a chorus of secondary characters that are talking to each other to further the plot along for the main characters. And this book is sort of like all the secondary characters coming together to tell this story. And you know, at first it was really hard to get into, but then you just have to, sometimes with a book you just have to let go. And this is certainly one of those books that you just have to start reading, and you got to read it fast. I discovered when I just started reading it fast and didn't pay much attention to who was saying what, but just sort of read it as just, I don't know, without not reading it as a play, because it almost feels like it's a play here. You know, these are the people talking. I started to enjoy the book a lot more, and I started to realize why this is considered sort of special. It's certainly not something that you're going to be used to, but I really think that people should read this book. His book of short stories, 10th of December, he knocked it out of the park. This is completely different. It just shows the way that an author or a writer has all different types of sides to them, and you can't pinpoint them into one sort of Daniel Silva's The Black Widow. This too is an excellent book. This is a series of books. I think there's about 15 so far. They're thrillers, like Robert Ludlum, or I don't read a lot of thrillers anymore. Frederick Forsyth. I don't know, who's the new thriller writer? Dan Brown? Give me a break. But anyway, his main character in these books is an Israeli spy who happens to be a restorer of art, and that's where his passion lies, in restoring old masters. So it's sort of, he's a very interesting character. In over 15 books he's changed somewhat. And I really like this book. It's very current because the enemy in here is ISIS. But once again, I think that Daniel Silva, who is an excellent writer, needs to take a break from this character and try something else. It's really hard, I know, in the publishing world, once you're known for a certain type of character or a certain type of style, for you to be accepted to write something else. It's just not done. Just the same thing with music. I mean, look at Jewel. She was a singer-songwriter, folk singer, and then she's tried country, she tried dance pop, and she was never accepted for those other different sides of herself. Yet those records had some amazing songs too. And it's unfortunate. I mean, we need to be comfortable and accept that people, writers, artists, can do all sorts of things. I mean, look at me. I write, I take photos. I sort of painted for a while. I don't know, that's about all I've done. But you know, we're always trying as creative people to try different things. And I love you, Daniel Silva. I'll buy the next book that I know is coming out in the summer. But I wouldn't mind if you did something different. I'd read it. You have one person that would buy the hardcover. Not too shabby. And then, last but not least, certainly, is a book that I've always wanted to read. Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude. I've neglected reading this book for many years. And I finally bought several of his books. I gotta look, I'm sorry, I read so much I forget the names of books. Chronicle of a Death Foretold. I don't know. I don't feel the same after reading that book. I feel like I'm a really far way from being a really good writer after reading that book. So I'm having equally good hopes for 100 Years of Solitude. I know that it was a big to-do for many years. I started reading it last night. I'm on page 8. I couldn't get into it because I think I was drifting off to sleep. But this is going to be my travel book, and we'll see. So that's it. So one thing that I usually do when I go to California is I take an old pair of shoes that I thought were way cool when I bought them, and I get a new pair of shoes. But then I leave the old pair of shoes in California, so I don't have to have extra room in my luggage to bring the old pair of shoes back with the new pair of shoes.